Hey guys, in this video we're going to take a look at the newly released GoPro Hero 10 Black, and we're going to compare it to the GoPro Hero 8. And I'll get into the reasons why I'm not comparing it to the Hero 9 in a little bit, but I literally just got this. This is not a sponsored video. I purchased this with my own money. I literally ordered it the day that they opened up the ordering process, so this is not like a, an advanced demo unit or anything like that. Literally just showed up yesterday. And it's been killing me not to go ahead and unbox this, but I'm ready to start testing this thing, so let's get this thing out of the box and see what we got. So right off the bat, we've got a nice, really nice ruggedized kind of case for this thing. And the GoPro 8 did not come with this. I don't know if the GoPro Hero 9 did or not. And by the way, the bundle also came with a SanDisk Extreme 32 gigabyte micro SD card. So that's always nice to have some of those. And let's see what's in the actual kit. All right, got an instruction card, got a nice heavy duty Type-C cable, one battery. Yeah, just a standard GoPro mount and a little curved stick-on. It's always nice to have some extra of those, I suppose. A thumb screw and the actual camera. Looks like there's some additional documentation up here. Really nice to have the case, I have to say. That's a nice touch. And of course, stickers. Who doesn't like stickers? All right, so here we can see the Hero 10. You can see it's about the same size as the Hero 8. We're going to get into the more in-depth comparisons in a bit. But first, I have to go charge this thing, and then I've got to spend a few days or a week or so really kind of running it through and making some comparisons with how it really stacks up to the Hero 8. How big of a difference does it really make? And I'll let you be the judge, and look forward to sharing that with you in a few days. Or as it turns out, a couple of seconds, since my future self apparently already took care of this for me. So let's jump ahead. And we're back. The last 3 seconds, we've sort of leaped forward a little over a week. And I've had the 10 and the 8 out in the field, kind of kicking them around and doing a side-by-side comparison. And I'm going to share some footage with you on that in just a minute. But a couple of comments. I mentioned the opening that they look similarly sized. And actually the Hero 10 is noticeably bigger. I think adding that front-facing screen, and I'll put some pictures up here, a little bit more close comparison. But you can see the Hero 10 has a larger rear screen, a pretty significantly larger rear screen. It's a good solid 1/4 inch thicker than the Hero 8. Now, one of the reasons for that is the Hero 8 had this fixed screen on it, or this fixed lens cap. And I've got a little protective glass on there to try to keep it from getting scratched, because there really wasn't any way to get this thing easily repaired. You certainly couldn't do it yourself if you scratched or broke the glass on the front of this thing. Finally, the Hero 10 goes back to the removable screen, so you can just twist that off and replace it if you want. And it does have this coating, which they're calling hydrophobic, on it, which makes the water shed off much more smoothly, so that if you're using this in a water application, you're not going to get bubbly water or water droplets kind of sticking to the glass and obstructing your video. I don't mind the extra thickness. I'm glad they went back to this user replaceable lens. All right, let's jump in and take a look at some of this side-to-side, head-to-head footage that I recorded for you while I was out and about. All right, we are out here. It is getting a little bit long shadowed, maybe 2 hours before sundown officially, but we do have enough light, I think, for me to get some sort of normal daytime lighting comparisons here. I've got the new Hero 10, which will be on your right, and the Hero 8 on your left. Now, I do have them both set in narrow mode instead of wide angle mode. I'm not a big fan of that fisheye look for the type of stuff that I generally do. So most of the stuff that we'll look at today will be narrow, and they're both filming in 24 frames per second at 4K. I'm already noticing that the front-facing screen is just starting to dim, but it does allow me to frame really nicely. And that 30 frames a second, it doesn't really, kind of watching my hand here, it doesn't really have any lag, which I'm extremely happy with. This is one of the main reasons I didn't buy the Hero 9, because there was a noticeable lag between kind of what you were doing and then what you were seeing, and it was kind of distracting. So it wasn't something I was really interested in. They've definitely improved that. So what you're seeing here is I'm using what the Hero 10 will call vibrant mode, and what the Hero 8 will call GoPro mode. So in terms of color, so they should look more or less comparable. The new Hero 10 adds a, in addition to the flat profile, which the 8 also has, the Hero 10 has now something called the natural mode, which is something a little bit more realistic, and we'll take a look at how those compare here in a little bit, side by side to the Hero 8's vibrant mode. I'm not going to do flat because I don't feel like color grading, basically. So anyway, kind of moving into the full sun here, and I've got a red shirt on. How do the colors look using vibrant mode or GoPro mode, we'll say, on both of these? They should look pretty similar, and they're both in 4K. As the sun goes down, I'm going to go back into the woods on the trails here and get sort of a moderately low light condition, because the Hyper Smooth 2.0 on the 8 definitely suffered when you get into low light. Hyper Smooth 4.0 on the Hero 10. So it's got 2 iterations of improvement, and so we'll see what kind of a difference that actually might make. Let me switch over to the natural on the Hero 10 and we'll do another quick comparison so you can see how that looks versus how it looked in vibrant mode or GoPro color. All right, so now I've got the GoPro 10 in natural mode instead of vibrant mode. So how does that blue sky behind me look? I'm sure it looks a little bit less sort of strikingly blue. And I left the Hero 8 in the normal GoPro mode, which is, as I said, roughly equivalent to vibrant mode. So we should see a pretty, almost shockingly blue sky. All right, let's find out how well Hyper Smooth does. And so we're going to get on the trail before it gets dark and just do some different scenarios. I think we'll also get into the hyperlapse because hyperlapse 3.0 on the Hero 10 is supposed to be a little bit better than the hyperlapse 2.0 that is on the Hero 8. So we'll get a comparison to see if there's any real noticeable differences there and get a good cross-section of kind of just the general comparison between this 10 and the older 8. So let's go get to that. All right, now I've got the 10 back in vibrant mode, so they look more or less a little bit more comparable. And I am now obviously walking, so we're kind of seeing what the standard setting on Hyper Smooth 4.0 versus Hyper Smooth 2.0 looks like. And we have fairly low light situation here. Surprisingly, despite the relatively low light, I say the front facing camera is still relatively bright and easy to see. And it only stays full brightness for maybe 30 seconds to 40 seconds or so, and then it dims to save battery life, which I will say is pretty good. You know, I've seen people in other reviews talk about the battery life taking a little bit of a hit, and I think they're talking about versus the Hero 9. But I compared it to virtually a brand new battery that I had for the Hero 8 that I really had not even used, both fully charged and both just running flat out on the same scene in 4K 24 frames. And on the Hero 10, I got an hour and 31 minutes of runtime out of that one battery before it shut off. And I only got an hour and 13 minutes out of the Hero 8. So it is a big battery, and it needs to be because it's got a lot more being asked of the camera on the Hero 9 and 10 than was in the Hero 8. But I never really had an issue with the battery life on the Hero 8. It's never really been a problem for me. I mean, I'm getting 15 more minutes battery life, a little bit more than that on the Hero 10. So for me, I'm looking at the battery as an improvement if I'm comparing it to the 8. So how is the Hyper Smooth holding up? Again, you know, the sun right there through the trees behind me. Shadows are pretty long. I mean, we're probably an hour and 40 minutes before official sundown. You know, in my experience, Hyper Smooth 2.0 on the Hero 8 gets a little bit iffy in lighting conditions around this type of light. All right, so far, you've been hearing pretty much just the audio, the standard audio on the Hero 10. I did not buy the media mod yet. That is something I'm going to be doing in the future. I do have a media mod for the Hero 8, but I'm not using it right now. So we are just hearing the, you know, the default integrated microphones in their default win settings on both cameras right now. So I'll switch over here to the Hero 8. You can hear the audio from the Hero 8. Both at the same distance. I'm not going to EQ these in any way differently, so you can get hopefully a you know, a fair comparison of how the dog's barking sounds in the video with the Hero 8 microphone And now let's switch back over and listen to the Hero 10 microphone, and let's see how that sounds. So this is the Hero 10 microphone, speaking the same volume, basically all the same ambient background noise. How does this sound? Now let me switch it around and point front ways. Right now I'm talking from behind the camera, and we're still hearing the Hero 10. But now I'm same distance away, but talking from behind the camera. Now let me switch that over to the Hero 8. How does it sound when I talk now from behind the Hero 8 versus the Hero 10? I guess we're finding out together, because I have no idea how these comparisons are going to shake out. I will say, switching back to the Hero 10, that I really find that I like the front-facing camera a little more than I thought I would. Honestly, I thought it was a bit of a gimmick. They were playing catch-up to DJI on their action cam, and which also has a lot of lag still. I don't believe DJI, at least in the current shipping action cam, has fixed that. So it's a non-issue on the Hero 10, I have to say. And I do like being able to frame the shot. Now, it does go off after a while, but generally that's not a problem. It's just doing that, obviously, to save battery life. Oh, had some rain over the last couple of days. Finally got a little water trickling over that waterfall. That's nice to see. This is often dry when I come through here. Let's do a hyperlapse and see what that looks like. I know the Hero 10 has hyperlapse 3.0 versus hyperlapse 2.0 on the Hero 8. Let's see if we can detect any differences or improvements. Let's go check that out. All right, well, hopefully that helped you get a visual on some of the differences and not so differences between these two cameras. Definitely there are some good things, there are some bad things, and maybe some ugly things. So let's get to the good, bad, and the ugly. So starting with the good, first of all, I will say there's a lot to like about the Hero 10. I'm very happy with the battery life, for example. I did get better battery life than I did out of the Hero 8, and there's a lot being asked of this camera. And even though it's maybe a slight dip in battery life compared to the Hero 9, I don't find it to be a problem at all. And in fact, I had bought an extra battery for the Hero 8, which I never actually ended up using because I had bought one of these USB charged monopod handles. Now they don't make this one anymore, but they make, Ulanzi makes a newer one, which I'll put a link to. It's actually got an integrated little tripod that's, I think, removable as well. And this one only has 5,200 milliamp hours, and I think the new one is like 10,000 milliamp hours. If you're interested in something like that, you should definitely check that kind of a product out. I think they're around 50 bucks, maybe a little bit less. Anyway, that's basically kept me from ever needing any additional batteries the way that I happen to use the camera. All right, moving on. So we've got 12 megapixel photo capability on the Hero 8, 23 megapixel, almost double on the Hero 10. Now this isn't a big deal for me because frankly, I don't use these for taking pictures almost ever. But if that's a use case that might apply to you, that's a pretty significant difference between the 10 and the 8. You can definitely post-process, zoom, and crop in on photos you take from the Hero 10 way more effectively than you can on the Hero 8 because of that extra pixel density. On Hypersmooth 4.0, I did see a difference there. You can definitely tell it is just a little bit smoother. Now, I think if you weren't looking at these clips side by side, I don't think you'd probably be able to tell a big difference between 2.0 versus 4.0. But it is better. Having said that, this gets into the kind of the good and the bad. Maybe this is actually part of the ugly. Neither one of these cameras is good in low light under any circumstances. So if you have low light conditions, and I'm not even talking about dark, I'm talking about moderately low light, and you saw some of this in the clips I just played, you start to get a lot of noise because these are relatively small sensors. So our expectation should be that these aren't going to be great in low light to begin with. But Add to that, if you're doing moving around or walking video, like especially hiking video, anything that involves motion that you want stabilized, low light is just a killer for electronic stabilization. There's just no way around it. Higher frame rates. This is getting back to the good. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping back and forth here. I really like the ability to get higher frame rates at every resolution on the Hero 10. So if I'm filming at 4K, I can get up to 4x slow-mo, maybe 5x slow-mo if I'm doing a 24p timeline on the Hero 10. I only get like a 2x slow-mo at that same resolution on the Hero 8. And then of course you've got 5.3K capability on the Hero 10. Obviously the one use case is that it does give you the ability to crop in on your 5.3K video without losing resolution to an extent. And that's nice to have, but is it worth filming in 5.3K all the time? And would you do it at higher frame rates? This is probably a good time to address sort of the big issue that's come up in just the past few days with the Hero 10. A lot of complaints that it overheats at the highest resolution, and like it may actually shut down on you or will shut down on you somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 or so minutes. Now, I do understand that a lot of those tests in the short-term shutdowns are because they are testing this on a tabletop with the little feet closed and blocking the little ventilation vents on the bottom. And there are little vents on the bottom that allow it to expel heat. So if you were to, David Manning, if you could check out one of his videos, he did a really good video on this recently. But if you were to take this and use it in a normal use case where you've got it on a mount so it's able to send heat out of these vents on the bottom, and you're getting normal airflow because you're using motion, because you're using hypersmooth for stabilization, you will get much better results as far as record times. But the fact remains is that most people are not using this at the highest frame rates, at the highest resolutions for really long-term filming. You're normally grabbing very short clips, usually in the couple of minute range, maybe even 5 minutes is probably pushing it. But most people just aren't trying to set these and film high res, high frame rate for 20 minutes, all right? If that's you, this is probably not the camera for you. But that's a problem that most action cams are going to encounter in some form. They just have trouble dispelling that heat. That said, if you are somebody who's like in the more sort of targeted user of this kind of camera, who is going to do shorter term clips, trying to get some slow-mo activity out of that, where you want to really slow it down, maybe even get 8x slow-mo, you can get that at 2.7K out of the Hero 10, and it still looks fantastic. That's pretty excessive. I don't know that you, in most cases, unless you're trying to film hummingbirds in slow motion, that you need more than 240 frames a second to be able to slow that down. I'm sure there are people out there who do, but again, this is not the camera for that particular purpose. You can use both of these for 1080p webcams if you want. And from an audio standpoint, they both sound virtually identical with their integrated mics, which in most cases is good enough. So if you already have a Hero 8, is it really worth upgrading to the Hero 10? For me, the answer is yes. I will use more slow-mo now because it's available at higher resolutions than it was on the Hero 8. So I'm more likely to make some use of that, just have some fun with it. It's just more options there, more flexibility in how you can use the slow-mo than I could do it on the Hero 8. And I also really like the fact that I can replace the lens cover, the glass lens cover. That's something that they didn't let you do on the Hero 8. If you cracked it or scratched it, you were pretty much done on the Hero 8. And it does have that hydrophobic coating on it now. So if you do take this scuba diving or swimming or other water sports, you're not going to get the water droplets clinging to the glass like you would on an uncoated piece of glass. So that's also very nice if you're going to use this in the water. If you don't already have a Hero 8 and you're looking to decide, should I get the Hero 8, the 9, or the 10, that's a more difficult decision because the Hero 8 is now selling for only $280 and it's still a fantastic camera. I would definitely, personally, still go for the Hero 10. Just because the extra $120 does give me a lot more flexibility, gives me that replaceable lens cover, better slow-mo options, better color options, and the stabilization is just a tiny bit better. And again, understanding that neither of these cameras is going to be great in low light. So as long as you go into it with that understanding, I think you're going to be happy whichever way that you go. So anyway, I hope some of this information was helpful to you, found something of use here that I presented. If so, please give us a thumbs up. Super would appreciate that. And if you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing. Love to have you on board. Anyway, thanks for sticking with me till the end, if in fact you did. And hope to see you in the next one. Till then, have fun out there.